Coming up next on the Polk Report, the NCAA made an unprecedented decision against the Oklahoma State men's basketball program.
The Big 12 title for OSU cross country.
And we hit the road to follow the 11th ranked Cowboys here in Morgantown.
We'll break down all that and more on this week's episode coming up in a short bit.
Hello and welcome to the Polk Report in Morgantown. We made the 16-hour drive to keep you up to date on all things Cowboy sports. And I'm Asa Lucas.
And I'm Dallas Haggerty.
Dallas, we are not used to this weather right now.
Not at all. It's going to be one of the coldest games of the year for the Cowboys, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But with that, first we have some breaking news out of Stillwater. Outrage is a way to put it lightly. The Cowboy Athletic Department broke the news, and Alyssa Sanchez has more on what the Cowboy basketball team is currently dealing with. Alyssa?
On November 3rd, the NCAA decided to deny the Oklahoma State's men's basketball team's appeal and uphold the postseason ban. Oklahoma State's head coach Mike Boynton and athletic director Chad Wangberg held a press conference to express their emotions on the decision.
I'm disappointed, disgusted, appalled, frustrated. But somewhere in Indianapolis, there's a group of people celebrating.
Oklahoma State was originally given the ban from the NCAA and Big 12 tournaments in the summer of 2020, but the Cowboys appealed the decision and were allowed to play while under the appeal. The penalty goes back to the 2017 FBI investigation into college basketball dishonesty when former assistant coach Lamont Evans accepted bribes to influence student athletes. Evans was immediately fired. OSU cooperated with FBI and the NCAA, and no major violations by the school were done, which makes this an unprecedented decision.
After a 4.5-year process, a process that took over twice as long as the FBI's original investigation, to use this flawed and inconsistent process to take away the opportunity for postseason and the NCAA tournament from student athletes that had nothing whatsoever to do with this case, proves to me that the national office has chosen to weaponize the NCAA tournament against the very membership that has turned it into the lifeblood of the NCAA.
With so much sadness and anger happening right now, Coach Boynton's only hope is to keep this team's head held high and focused as they take on an exhibition game against Central Oklahoma November 5th. From the Polk Report, I'm Alyssa Sanchez.
Wow, I can't remember the last time I saw Coach Boynton that emotional. That was really cool. Thank you, Alyssa, for the story. Asa, I ask you, these boys are going through practice day in, day out with high hopes to make the tournament, which is March Madness at the end of the year, all for nothing. What do you think's going through these people's minds?
Probably a lot of anger and frustration. Imagine you are practicing your whole life to get to the big stage, to get on TV, to let your mom and your dad and your family see you. And now you're not going to get that opportunity to get on the big screen. But speaking of big screens, the Cowboy football team is here in Morgantown. They are ranked number 11 in the country. But what we're worried about is this is a potential trap game here in Morgantown. A little later this afternoon, the Cowboys will be taking the field here in Morgantown. The offense is feeling well. Spencer Sanders had arguably the best game of his career. Jalen Warren is firing on all cylinders. However, if the Cowboys don't win this game, their fate is taken out of their hands, and they are praying to the Big 12 gods. And Coach Gundy's not having any part of underestimation of the Mountaineers today.
This team's playing really good football right now. This is the most physical team defensively that we've played by far. They could be the best 4-4 team in the country.
Dallas, hopefully the Cowboy offense can keep things on rolling like they did last week. However, I suspect things are going to be a little bit tougher here in Morgantown.
Absolutely. It's a very tough environment to play here in West Virginia. Speaking of the game last week, Kansas came into Stillwater to play Oklahoma State after they put up a very good fight against the team from down south.
On October 30th, the Kansas Jayhawks headed to Stillwater, Oklahoma to take on the OSU Cowboys for OSU's 100th annual homecoming. The Cowboy defense started off strong, holding the Jayhawks to 0 first downs on the opening drive. A couple drives later, the Cowboys marched down the field and Spencer Sanders found the end zone for a 4-yard rushing touchdown. Following the Cowboy touchdown, Jayhawk quarterback Jason Bean threw his first interception of the game to Cowboys' Jason Taylor. The Cowboys then managed to put 3 more points on the board to make it 10-0. Following the Cowboy field goal, the Jayhawks got the ball on the Cowboys' 21-yard line. On the third play of the drive, Jayhawk quarterback Jason Bean threw his second interception of the game to Colby Harvell-Peel. The Cowboys managed to capitalize on the interception, and Brendan Presley found the end zone for a 4-yard touchdown. To start the second quarter, OSU Spencer Sanders found Tay Martin for a 36-yard touchdown. The Cowboy defense continued to dominate and get the offense back on the field. A couple drives later, Brendan Presley took a reverse into the end zone for another Cowboy touchdown. The following Cowboy possession, Dominic Richardson was able to find the end zone for a 5-yard touchdown to take the Cowboys to a 38-0 lead going into half. To start the second half, backup quarterback Shane Illingworth found Bryson Green for a 12-yard Cowboy touchdown. The Jayhawks then bring in backup quarterback Kendrick Miles, who leads Jayhawks to a 49-yard field goal in their first points of the game. To start the fourth quarter, OSU Shane Illingworth finds John Paul Richardson for a 2-yard touchdown. On Kansas's following drive, quarterback Kendrick Miles throws for his first interception of the game to Cowboys' Nick Session. Early in the fourth, the Cowboys score the last points of the game with a field goal from Alex Hale. Following a phenomenal Cowboy win and a dominant defensive performance, here's what head coach Mike Gundy had to say about their game.
They're just playing good. I almost hate to jinx them. They've played well throughout the year. I think that Jim and the staff put good plans together. I think there's an advantage because they're in, I think this is his 4th year, and they have a good feel for his system. We've got a number of guys that are veterans that have played a lot of snaps, and it's hard to really replace experience and maturity, and that's what we have on that side of the ball.
Following a great homecoming win, next week the Cowboys head to Morgantown to take on West Virginia Mountaineers.
So back to today's game. It's highly anticipated, and we have a lot to break down.
Yeah, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And to help us understand the game better, we're bringing in my personal friend and our Big 12 analyst who follows all things Big 12 football, Brock Baldridge.
Yeah, it's great to be here in lovely Morgantown, West Virginia. And Oklahoma State received their first ranking from the College Football Playoff Committee. Plus, they also received accolades for guys like Malcolm Rodriguez and Tanner Brown.
It was a big week for Oklahoma State football as the team received national attention from individual accolades and their first ranking from the College Football Playoff Committee this year. The Cowboys place kicker Tanner Brown was named the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. Brown scored 10 total points in Oklahoma State's dominant win over Kansas last Saturday. He also successfully made a career-long 49-yard field goal attempt. The former UNLV walk-on has been a game-changer for the Pokes this season. Another player that OSU fans are more familiar with is senior linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez, who is named a semifinalist for the Dick Butkus Award. This award is the nation's best linebacker in the country. If Rodriguez is able to win it, it would be the first time that an Oklahoma State defensive player has ever won the award. The storyline that most Cowboy fans are following are the college football playoff rankings that were released this past week. The committee placed Oklahoma State at number 11. The only other Big 12 teams ranked are Oklahoma at number 8 and Baylor at number 12. The Georgia Bulldogs are the number 1 ranked team in the country, with Alabama ranked at number 2. The big surprise here is to see teams like Michigan State ranked at number 3 and Oregon ranked at number 4. With Oklahoma State being ranked number 11, the Cowboys have some work to do in order for their name to be discussed to qualify for the college football playoff.
Now we're going to take a look at tonight's game. The West Virginia Mountaineers coming off a huge victory against the Iowa State Cyclones, a team that took down the Cowboys and gave us our only loss 2 weekends ago. Now it's time for the keys of the game. So I'm going to start. I really think it's going to be winning the third quarter for Mike Gundy and the OSU Cowboys. They've had a problem doing that of late. I'm a big guy when it comes to if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Continue to feed Jalen Warren. He's had a lot of success, and Spencer Sanders has really got it going of late. So if he continues to have success, I think it's all about consistency for the Cowboys at this point in the year.
When I was looking at game notes for my 3 game keys that Oklahoma State needs to do to win, first key, we've beat West Virginia 6 years in a row. So obviously Mike Gundy is doing something right in preparation of the game. So whatever that game plan is, if that's being more conservative in the second half, I say don't change that at all. Second, we need to pressure West Virginia and Jarrett Dagey, because if you watch the Baylor defense, they sacked him 5 times and they lost by over 25 points to the Bears. So Oklahoma State's defense is very good at that. If we can get back there and pressure him, get at least 3 sacks, I don't think we have to worry about this West Virginia offense. And then third, let's get Brendan Presley more involved in special teams. Give him a better chance at punt returns and kickoffs, and I think that's going to make a big difference.
I like it. And
Yeah.
Presley's been playing really well of late, too, so I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Those are some great keys there, A-Sub. You know, my first key of the game is prevent the big plays here in this situation because West Virginia is the second best team in the Big 12 in passing offense. So they're a high-risk, high-reward offense, so they're going to be going for it a lot in fourth down and different things like that. We'll get to that in a second. But also the second key of the game, I feel like, is control the time of possession for Oklahoma State. You know, they're going to have to get Jalen Moore in the ball and to keep that Mountaineer offense on the sideline because, you know, Mountaineers, they really like to run and gun. You know, they take big chances. Sometimes they might turn the ball over. So this could be a big game for the OSU defense, but for the OSU offense, they really got to stay on the field so to keep that high-powered West Virginia offense off of the field. And the third key of the game I have is try to stop West Virginia on fourth down because West Virginia is ranked second in the Big 12 going for it on fourth down. So they like to go for it and take their chances. So if you're able to get some big fourth down stops, then this game could really turn around. But in order to do that is you got to make sure they aren't fourth and short because if they're fourth and short, then obviously they're going to go for it on opponent territory. So if you can actually get some stops in third down, that could really change some things. But expect West Virginia to be going for it on fourth down. That's going to be a big key in this game.
Are you officially calling that?
I am calling it.
So are we going to see that on your Instagram or your Twitter? Watch the fourth down.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's some pretty good stuff from Brock right there. We'll have more later in the show. We look forward to tonight's game, and that is the keys to the game. You'll see more from Brock Baldridge later in the episode.
We're going to take our first break. We've got more football to discuss, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at what's going on in the other Cowboy sports.
Plus, I got a chance to look at what the new Big 12 members have to bring to the conference. You won't want to miss it.
I want to show you something. This is the money we could save by switching from fresh packed California crushed tomatoes to concentrated tomato paste.
I want to show you something too. I got a new door. Go take a look at it.
Nobody uses better ingredients than Little Caesars. Like fresh-packed California crushed tomatoes. Pick up a large, deep dish for just $8.
Pizza.
Thanks for tuning back in. We're glad you're with us.
We drove 16 hours to bring you live coverage of the Oklahoma State football team and their showdown here in Morgantown today.
2 teams out, 4 teams in. From the likes of Oklahoma State University, University of Oklahoma, and University of Texas, the Big 12 has notoriously been a sought-after Power 5 conference. Following the addition of University of Cincinnati, University of Houston, University of Central Florida, and Brigham Young University, it's time for the Big 12 to adopt a new identity. State-of-the-art facilities, NCAA national recognition, popularity across the country. These are just a mere look at some of the reasons these schools have been knocking on the Big 12's door. Currently ranked 6th in the country, the Cincinnati Bearcats have made a recent push for this year's college football playoff. With their biggest win coming on the road against a talented Fighting Irish team, the Bearcats have proved that they will bring an added level of competition to the Big 12.
The future of what we've been trying to do is always growing. I think that was, for me in particular, was what continued to excite me.
Cincinnati Basketball has gone about its business in a similar manner. With the new addition of head coach Wes Miller, the sky's the limit in the Big 12 for the Bearcats. The 4 new additions to the Big 12 will now have the opportunity to compete at schools such as this one, here in Morgantown, West Virginia at West Virginia University. These schools are now presented with a new challenge, but most importantly, a new opportunity that comes with much greater complications. With 11 conference titles, the Houston Cougar football team is ready for the challenge. 1 Heisman winner and 8 consensus All-Americans have led Houston on the path to the Big 12. University of Houston presents as much of a threat on the hardwood as they do on the turf. 22 trips to March Madness, 6 Final Four appearances, 2 NCAA runner-up thrillers. The Cougars have proved they are the real deal and belong in a dominant Power 5 conference.
Just getting better. You know, the answer is not to, constantly jump around. You have to know who you are. I'm with these guys every day in practice. So I see the improvement they're making.
These teams serve toward advancing the future of the Big 12 Conference and ultimately proving this long-anticipated shift. Luke Santangelo touches on how Brigham Young and University of Central Florida just might complete the new Big 12 puzzle. For the Poke Report, I'm Dallas Haggerty.
The Big 12 will officially add the University of Central Florida and Brigham Young University into the conference in 2023. These two programs have struggled to gain national attention while being a part of a Group of 5 conference. The Knights and Cougars hope to reshape the Big 12 and make an impact. UCF has been successful in the American Athletic Conference in the last 4 years. UCF defeated Auburn in 2017 in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl to complete their historic 13-0 undefeated season. They also made it to the Fiesta Bowl, where they were defeated by LSU in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. The Knights hold a 41-8 record in the last 4 years and have finished in the college football playoff rankings 3 times. Central Florida women's basketball team has also been excellent in recent years. UCF has made the March Madness twice in the last 3 years with a combined record of 62-22.
What's wrong with everybody? Come on! Celebrate! Come on, this is great. Yeah, thank you. Fantastic. Well, I'd just like to thank the media first for keeping this such a secret. Thank you for all your hard work and not trying to get the scoop. So thank you. Man, this is a landmark day.
The NCAA has shown that it's near impossible for a Power 5 conference team to make a run for the college football playoffs. These 4 new additions to the Big 12 hope to make a new identity to the Big 12 and cannot wait to play in a stadium such as Milan Pescara right behind me. Brigham Young University is currently ranked 15th in the country with a 7-2 record. BYU is famously known for its Lavelle Edwards Stadium. The football program has won 2 of its last 3 bowl games, including a win over UCF in 2020. The Cougars basketball program is excited for its future. Brigham Young, coming off a March Madness appearance, is returning 2 all-preseason West Coast Conference players. These 4 programs hope to gain national attention and spice up the new Big 12. For the Poke Report, I'm Luke Santangelo.
Traveling to Orlando to cover a game sounds pretty good right about now. Thank you, Luke, for the story.
Introducing Lincoln Black Label at Diffie Ford Lincoln. Designed to impress those with impeccable taste, Lincoln Black Label features a collection of interior themes and a host of exclusive membership privileges, inspired by attention to detail and a love of automobiles. With Lincoln Black Label, you'll enjoy an extended premium maintenance plan that covers wear items or even remote vehicle delivery. Lincoln Black Label isn't about luxury ownership, it's about membership. Lincoln Black Label, exclusively at Diffie.
Fall is in full swing, and that means fall sports are officially on our radar. One of those sports is cross country. Rodrigo Solis has the story on what makes this year's cross country team so special.
On a windy Friday morning, Stillwater hosts the Big 12 Cross Country Championships. Up first was the men's race. The Cowboys came in ranked first in the Midwest region, just ahead of Iowa State, which was ranked in second. The gun went off, and the 82 runners started their journey to the finish line, searching for the Big 12 trophy. It was Wesley Kipto from Iowa State who started making a push early on in the race, followed closely by Cowboy runner Isai Rodriguez. It was a 2-man race as they had a 20-second lead over the rest of the pack before reaching the 2-mile mark. With just over a mile to go, Kipto, who finished third at the NCAA Cross Country Championship in March, widened his lead over Rodriguez, who decided to run his own race rather than chasing after the Cyclone runner. For the second year in a row at the Big 12 Cross Country Championships, Isai Rodriguez finished second behind Wesley Kipto. When competing at the Big 12 Championships, Rodriguez has taken second place in each of his 4 years of eligibility. However, the 2020 NCAA Cross Country All-American is optimistic about what's coming.
Region is going to be good because it's a 10K, so it's definitely going to be a shock to a lot of people. But for me, I feel like 10K it helps me because I feel like the longer it is, the better for me it's going to be. So I'm excited for regionals and excited for the transition.
The Cowboys had 6 runners placed in the top 15, including Isai Rodriguez, Alex Meyer, Ryan Smeaton, Ryan Schaap, Victor Shitsama, and Shea Foster. Up next was the women's race. The Cowboys came in ranked first in the Big 12 and second in the Midwest region. Among their opponents were the Iowa State Cyclones, who were looking to defend their title. Unlike the men, the women's race was much closer, not just for the individual but also for the team title. 9 runners were in the front group, featuring 4 OSU and Iowa State competitors. The Cowboys took a nail-biting victory by defeating Iowa State by 1 point. Head coach Dave Smith said Clarissa Morales' performance was one of the factors of the Cowboys' victory.
Luckily, Clarissa Morales, who was running 6 for us, rallied and ended up saving the day, being our fifth and holding on. Just holding on to just doing enough to keep us in the win.
Once again, it was Taylor Rowe who led the way for the Cowgirls. Molly Bourne, Kelsey Ramirez, Gabby Hendeman, and Clarissa Morales all finished in the top 15 to give the Cowgirls the win. With an exceptional performance by all OSU runners, Oklahoma State took both Big 12 championship titles. The Cowboys captured their second title in a row for the first time since 2016, while the Cowgirls won their second title in the last 3 years. For the Poke Report, I'm Rodrigo Solis.
The Cowgirl and Cowboy cross-country teams are currently in preparation for their regional championships on the 12th of November. Good luck to them moving forward. We appreciate Rodrigo Solis' insight.
It's been an interesting trip to say the least, from our first stop in Atlanta, Indiana to now Morgantown, West Virginia. Luckily, Phoenix captured it all.
We're about 42% of the way there.
Not like
9.
I don't know about that. I think she's lying.
I'm not actually talking to the guy that I like, so that's fine.
We're about to get poor on the Kawasaki. And we're also going to be talking a lot about Peyton Manning on this drive, so get ready. Peyton Manning. He's the man.
Welcome back to the Rodrigo Report. I'm Asa Lucas.
And I'm Rodrigo.
Today we're going to talk about everything that's important to Rodrigo. We're going to talk about movies, we're going to talk about food, we're going to talk about sports, and most importantly, we're going to talk about Rodrigo.
And I picked a seat, and then they told me I couldn't sit there. How is that fair? Explain to me, how is that fair?
I'm just saying, the girls have had to sit shoulder to shoulder the whole trip. We deserve the space.
Exactly.
It's freezing in here.
Down West Virginia this week, and Oklahoma's.
All right, so back to this in 3, 2, 1.
OSU Cowboys.
What a great experience this trip has been. Thank you, Phoenix, for your dedication to documentation. Now we're going to throw it to Brock Baldridge, who has some more updates on the Big 12 standings and what happened last week. Brock?
Greetings, everyone. Welcome in studio. Back in Stillwater, I'm Brock Baldridge, your Big 12 analyst. There was a lot of movement in the Big 12 standings this past weekend, and we'll get to that in a second, but it's November, which means we are already in the final month of Big 12 play. Every game becomes crucial, and it certainly looks like the two contenders to make the Big 12 title game are both Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. But we can't forget about Iowa State and Baylor, as they are two teams on the outside looking in. Let's begin with highlights where the Poke Report is broadcasting from this week. Morgantown, West Virginia. It's the Mountaineers and the Cyclones. Iowa State is in control of their own destiny after beating Oklahoma State a week ago. But first, they have a date in the Mountain State. Starting off with the first drive of the game. That is Breece Hall, who wastes no time. He is hauling it to the end zone, and he scores on the long touchdown run And that's now 2 of the last 3 games that Hall has scored a 70-plus yard touchdown run on the first drive of the game, 7-0 Cyclones. West Virginia looking to correspond on their first drive. It's 3rd and goal. Letty Brown takes the handoff and powers his way across the goal line. We're all tied up 7-7. Next Cyclone drive. Quarterback Brock Purdy just trying to buy some time as he delivers a dart on target to Tariq Milton, who was wide open. He was already halfway to Pittsburgh before a West Virginia defender was able to catch up to him. It's now 14-7 Cyclone Nation. Mountaineers would respond. Play action. Quarterback Jared Diggy with a big boy throw. You can't thread the needle any better than that. Bryce Ford Wheaton on the catch. We now have a tied ball game at the end of the first quarter. This one looks like it might be an old-fashioned shootout, except the defense steps up for both teams in the second quarter, and after a pair of field goals by each team, we now go into halftime tied at 17 apiece. On to the second half. Early in the third quarter, I didn't see a Cyclone on the radar in West Virginia, and neither did Jared Diggy, as the Iowa State linebacker Jake Hummel says, "Thank you very much." Easy pick 6 for the Cyclones as they regain the lead. Next Mountaineer drive. Diggy tries to make up for the mistake, throwing into traffic, but Bryce Ford Wheaton with an utterly incredible catch. That play speaks for itself. We're now tied at 24. Iowa State next possession. When in doubt, just hand it off to Breece Hall. He makes it look so easy out there, running down the middle of the field, driving and spinning anyone in his path, just like a Cyclone does in real life. That puts Iowa State in good field position. Then Brock Purdy does the rest. He gets a fake handoff, and he will score the touchdown. No time for celebration as he runs back right to the sideline. He is all business. We now go to the fourth quarter. Key situation here. 4th and 3. Diggy to his wide receiver, Winston Wright, with a great touchdown catch. The pendulum keeps swinging back and forth. It's now all tied up at 31-31. West Virginia will get the ball back. 1st and goal, the handoff to Letty Brown. He takes it up the middle to score the touchdown. The Mountaineers have their first lead of the ball game, never backing down. Last chance for Iowa State, trying to tie up the game with no timeouts in their final drive. Brock Purdy throws it up for gold, but instead the pass is incomplete, and he'll end up with Cole. As the Blue Ridge Mountains were not kind to the Cyclones, Iowa State drops a massive game. West Virginia would win by a final score of 38-31. West Virginia just trying to keep its season hopes alive as they're still in good position to make a bowl game. That Iowa State loss now puts Oklahoma State right back in the driver's seat en route to make it to the Big 12 championship game. West Virginia improves to 4-4. Iowa State drops to 5-3. Both teams have massive home games coming up this week. But first, we move on with more highlights as we take it to Waco, Texas, where the Baylor Bears are hosting in-state rival Texas. Starting off with the second play from scrimmage, quarterback Gary Bohannon rolling the dice and throws it into tight coverage. B.J. Foster read the eyes of the quarterback just like the eyes of Texas and ends up with the interception. That is only the second interception that Bohannon has given up all year. Longhorns in good field position. Quarterback Casey Thompson takes advantage of the opportunity and hits his target, Joshua Moore. It's now 7-0 Texas. Baylor looking to respond. It's 1st and goal. Did someone say Philly special? How about a Waco special? Tyquan Thornton to R.J. Sneed. The trick play ties up the game at 7-all. Later in the quarter, after a Baylor field goal, Casey Thompson throws it to the most dangerous deep threat in the Big 12. Allow me to reintroduce you to Xavier Worthy, who just makes big plays, and he does so once again. 63-yard touchdown. Worthy gets the Horns back on top as they lead at 14-10. We now go into the second half. No monkey business for Texas going on here, except for maybe on the coaching staff. Early in the third quarter, it's 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. Easy play call here. Who else but B. John Robinson, who scores the touchdown. Texas now leads at 21-10. But not so fast, my friend. Gary Bohannon calls his own number as he goes into the end zone. Not his best day throwing the pigskin, but he makes up for it with his leg. Early in the fourth quarter, Baylor emptying out all the tricks in the bag as Bohannon hands it off to his tight end, Ben Sims. No treats for the Longhorns now that Halloween is over. This is Abram Smith, who's displaying moves like he's Bijan Robinson, spinning around defenders, except Robinson's on the other sideline. He will go for the corner of the end zone, and he's got it. It's now 31-21 Baylor. The fourth quarter has not been kind to the Texas Longhorns all season. Longhorns respond with a field goal and have one last chance to tie the game. 4th and 10, Casey Thompson running around to try to keep the drive alive as he fires a pass and the ball is batted away, and that will do it. Sick 'em Bears. Baylor gets back on top, winning the big home game over Texas, and now once again the Longhorns cannot figure it out in the fourth quarter of this season. Final score, Bears 31, Longhorns 24. Baylor moves to 7-1 on the season. Texas drops to 4-4. The Bears are trying to keep up with the Cowboys for that final spot in the Big 12 title game. We'll take a spin and look at other action that happened in the Big 12 over the weekend. Kansas State had a dominating defensive performance against TCU, winning 31-12. The Horned Frogs decided to part ways with their longtime head coach Gary Patterson after the loss. It's the second straight week that a Big 12 team fired their head coach after losing to Kansas State. The other team was Texas Tech, parting ways with Matt Wells the week before. OU dominates Texas Tech on the offensive side of the football after the remarkable day by their starting quarterback, Caleb Williams, who had 405 passing yards along with 6 touchdowns. They even put in their backup Spencer Rattler into the game, who thought we've been saying that this season. Sooners beat the Red Raiders 52-21. Then another team who put in their backups early was Oklahoma State, who had an explosive performance against Kansas as they won the game 55-3. Let's now go over the current Big 12 football standings. Oklahoma leads the way, being the only remaining undefeated team in the Big 12 with a 9-0 record. Oklahoma State is now back in being sole possession of second place in the Big 12 after the Iowa State loss. Baylor is right behind OSU, but is currently in third since Oklahoma State owns the tiebreaker. Iowa State may be in fourth place, but don't kid yourself, they are still in the mix. They just can't afford to lose any more games. Kansas State jumps all the way up to 5th place after their impressive defensive performance last week. Texas is now in 6th, West Virginia in 7th, Texas Tech in 8th, and TCU in 9th. Both of those schools will continue the rest of their seasons with interim head coaches. Then Kansas is in last place, still looking for their first conference win in 2 years. To wrap things up, we have the upcoming Big 12 schedule this weekend. Starting off with the Sunflower Showdown going on in Lawrence, an early window game. A win for K-State makes them bowl eligible. Then, of course, Oklahoma State will hit those country roads as they have a tough battle in Morgantown taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers. Baylor will continue their dominance as they take the short trip up north to I-35 to Fort Worth to take on TCU. Then we have a big matchup in Ames. Texas at Iowa State should be a good one. Definitely a game that many Big 12 fans will be keeping an eye on. That's all the time we have for the Big 12 updates. Let's send it back to Morgantown with Dallas and Asa.
The Big 12 season is in full swing as the Week 10 season is upon us.
That's right, and the college football playoff push is at an all-time high. So let's review our Big 12 standings and see where everyone else is placed.
It's very interesting because OU is at the top currently. We have Baylor tied with OSU, but we won the head-to-head against Baylor, so you could argue that OSU has the commanding second spot. And it's really up to OSU to control their own destiny from this point moving forward.
You know, if it came down to it, what team do you think in the Big 12 standings has the best shot at beating Oklahoma in a Big 12 championship game?
I would have to be biased and say us, just because we played so well this year, and it's a huge game. Bedlam is always a huge competition each and every year, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what we can do against the Sooners.
I like it. You know, I would love to say Oklahoma State would win that. I think we have a good chance at Bedlam, but if we had to if a team had to rematch against Oklahoma, I kind of like Baylor. I think Baylor can kind of get in the head, and Gary Bohannon has shown a lot of progress, and he's a very versatile quarterback, but also has a very strong arm and a very good football IQ.
Absolutely, that's a good team. And our Cowboys will be back in action Saturday night against TCU at the house that Boone built, Boone Pickens Stadium, and that game is a blackout, so we hope to see everybody in attendance.
And speaking about Big 12 games, let's welcome in our Big 12 analyst, Brock Baldridge. Welcome back, brother. It's always good to see you.
Always great to see you guys. Let's do some picks. How about it?
All right, the first game we're going to start off with is the Auburn Tigers at the Texas A&M Aggies. I'm a big underdog. I'm taking Texas A&M at home.
I'm going to have to disagree with you, partner, as much as I hate to do that. I like Auburn coming off of a loss. I think Bo Nix is ready for some revenge and wants to rewrite Auburn's history in the SEC this year.
I like the story.
Great pick, but not so fast, my friend. I've got to go with Texas A&M here. This is a good spot for Texas A&M. And to be honest with you guys, on paper it may not look like it, but in the standings, Texas A&M is very much in this race. You know, they got that big win over Alabama. So if they are able,
a fluke, buddy.
It was a fluke. But if they're able to get this really big win this weekend over Auburn, then Texas A&M is in a really good spot, because if Alabama slips up one more time, then Texas A&M would represent the West in the SEC for the SEC championship game. So This is a really big game for Texas A&M, and I like the Aggies to get a big home victory.
Next game up, we got Wake Forest at UNC. I always have been a Tar Heels fan, and I'm not wavering on this episode. I'm taking University of North Carolina.
Well, I'm someone who grew up watching Mac Brown coach his whole life, and while I do appreciate Mac Brown, all that he does, he's a very good football IQ. The Demon Deacons, they're coming out of nowhere. They've had the best record since 1944. So I think the Demon Deacons are going to have an upset, and they're going to continue to go undefeated into the ACC championship.
Like the pick, but you know what? I'm going to have to go the other way. I actually like North Carolina in this game. I know what you're thinking. I like the storyline of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons here in this situation. But here's something interesting, is that if you're North Carolina, you got to run the football, because Wake Forest is ranked number 13th in the ACC in rushing defense. You don't really think about a top 10 team in college football being a bad rushing defense team. So if you're North Carolina, try to get your quarterback Sam Howell some confidence going into this game. I know North Carolina's 4-4, and they haven't played very well at home, but this is a big chance for them to get back into their season. They have a little bit to play for here and there, especially for Sam Howell, who's going to be a first-round draft pick possibly in the NFL. This could build his confidence and maybe raise his draft stock. So I actually like North Carolina to win by a field goal in this game.
Next up, we have Michigan State-Purdue. You could call this the game of upsets. Michigan State just beating Michigan, and Purdue earlier in the year taking it to a very good Iowa team. Like I said earlier in the show, I am an upset guy. I love taking the underdog, so I'm taking Purdue at home.
I love cheering for the underdogs as much as the next guy, so I'm going to join you. I'm going to say Purdue is pulling off an upset. They are very good at being a sleeper team and coming in when you least expect it and getting a dub.
I like the pick, and guess what? I agree with you guys. I will agree with you guys. You know, Michigan State is coming off a big emotional win in this game, beating Michigan, and you know, they really haven't played teams well like Nebraska and teams like Indiana. They got out of those games in close games, so now we're about to see what Michigan State's really made of, and Purdue is a tough team. They've lost some tough games this year. They went into Iowa City and beat Iowa on the road, so look into this game. I think Purdue is going to get a big home victory, and they're going to get the upset, and we're going to see the Big Ten standings really take a twist from here on out.
We have our first Big 12 game on the slate here. We have Baylor at TCU. I think Baylor's been playing really well of late. Outside of the loss to us, I think they played some really good football. That said, I am taking Baylor over the Horned Frogs.
No doubt in my mind, I think Baylor is going to be a very strong opponent. They'll probably lose one more game to Oklahoma, but throughout the rest of the year, they're going to keep winning. Baylor, that's an easy pick for me.
I have to agree with you guys here. Baylor is an easy pick right here. I know TCU lost Gary Patterson this past week, so you know maybe they'll be playing with a little bit of confidence for that next assistant coach taking over for them. You know, have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Could be interesting maybe when you look at the spread, but Baylor 7-point favorites. I don't see any trouble for them. I like the Bears here. You will see if they can control the turnovers, because last week that was an issue against Texas, but Baylor, usually a team that doesn't turn the ball over, that should be really big in this game. So look for Baylor to stay on the field without turning the ball over, and they should get a big victory.
We're staying in the Big 12 theme. Next up, we have the Longhorns, Texas, at the Iowa State Cyclones. I kept saying week after week, Texas is not going to lose another game. Texas is not going to lose another game. I kept being proven wrong. I'm sticking to my guns here. Texas is not going to lose another game.
There's just something in my gut that makes me want to agree with you, brother. I'm feeling Texas is going to pull off an upset here. I mean, they're really just playing for honor and for respect at this point, and they don't want to be a laughingstock going into the SEC. They want to be bowl eligible, and this is a must-win for them. So I'm picking Texas over Iowa State.
Guys, this was a coin flip game for me. I didn't know which either way, and I was still thinking about it off the set, but guess what? I got to go with Iowa State. I mean, they're a team with experience. They brought a lot of seniors back, and they actually lost a big game here last week in Morgantown, right in the stadium behind us. They lost a big game, and that was a big contest, back and forth here and there. And that now that Iowa State doesn't control their own destiny, they're still looking to get back into that Big 12 race. They got a lot to play for. They could even make the Sugar Bowl here and there. So if Oklahoma State is able to win out, then Iowa State won't be able to make it over them. But right now, Iowa State has a lot to play for. This is a big game. Texas is a very young team. I really like what Steve Sarkisian is doing at Texas, but you know, they're a very young team going into that cold weather in Ames, Iowa. That's going to be tough for the Longhorns, and that into the atmosphere as well. We know how Oklahoma State handled that, so it's going to be tough for Texas to come out there with the win. I like the experience with Iowa State on that roster, so I'm going to go with the Cyclones here.
It's time for our 6th and final game. It's our game, the Pokes of OSU, taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers. How could we not go with our Pokes? We've been playing really good football of late. Looking forward to the one later tonight. What do you guys think will be the keys to the game, and what are we really going to look forward to out of our guys this evening?
Well, one piece of advice my mama always told me when looking at friends, when looking at good people to surround yourself with, is the best indicator for future behavior is past behavior. So that being said, Oklahoma State has won 6 games in a row against West Virginia. I feel very confident that we can get a win as long as we're putting pressure and getting sacks, as long as the special teams is making no mistakes, as long as Mike Gundy sticks to his normal playbook, then we're going to have no problems winning here in West Virginia.
As long as that Cowboy defense continues to show out. I like it.
Like you said, Mike Gundy staying with that playbook. If they're able to use the play action in this game, it could be very big for this Oklahoma State offense. They're going to have to run the ball here. You know, limit the possessions here for this Mountaineer offense in this game, because they like to throw the ball and make big plays, and, you know, the high risk, high reward offense here. But, you know, in this game, it's going to be really tight. You know, Morgantown is a wild card city. It's a wild card when any Big 12 team comes up here to play. We saw Iowa State come in here last week and get beat, so you never really know. So Morgantown and the West Virginia Mountaineers, they got a lot to play for here, but I like the Pokes to win this one in a close game, so go Cowboys.
Well, Brock, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. Great to be on.
Well, that's a wrap from the Poke Report here in Morgantown. Thank you for coming along with us on this great experience. I wanted to thank everyone who made this trip possible. I'm Dallas Haggerty.
And I'm Asa Lucas. Thank you again for tuning in. This is going to be an exciting Week 10 for the Big 12 and for Cowboy sports. I'm Asa Lucas, and we'll see you next week in our home city of Stillwater.